Welcome back to Giant Monster Games. My name is Adrian, and Christmas is right around the corner. It is literally like 6 weeks away, and like last year, we're gonna do a deck tech countdown. Last year we did the top 30 decks as voted on by you guys from the channel. This year we're gonna do something a little bit different. I see on Reddit all the time, I get asked on the channel a lot, what is the best deck if you want to play competitive Magic? Well, why don't we just go through and look at the top 10 decks from this channel, from Giant Monster Games, that you can upgrade directly into a tier 1 deck in Modern. And I'm gonna give you the deck and how to actually upgrade it, so step by step, what you should be replacing with what. So, with that being said, let's open up you guys' first present. The first deck we're going to be looking at is Elves, which just happens to be on theme with a Christmas countdown. Unfortunately, these are more of the Llanowar variety of elves than the Santa's Workshop kind of elves, but at this point I will basically take whatever I can get. So let me actually break down what I'm going to be doing in this top 10 countdown. We are going to be doing a budget deck. I am presenting a budget deck, and then I'm going to be presenting a top 8 tier 1 version of the deck. I'm actually going to be taking and basing the decks off of decks that have done well in actual bigger tournaments. So we're going to take this elf deck, and I'm going to show you what's in it in the budget version, which is going to be rolling in at $55 or 17 ticks if you play online. And then I'm going to be showing you a tier 1 version that is $750 or 250 ticks if you are playing on MTGO. And I'm going to give you step by step how to upgrade it. So, what is an elf deck if you've never played elves? Also, like every single one of these videos, there is in the top right hand corner, there's a little thing that flashed up there. If you want to see another elf deck or another couple elf decks, I have done other elf decks on the channel. You can go take a look in there if you want some other interesting ideas. So, what is actually elves? Well, elves make up a bunch of elves, such as Elvish Mystic, Llanowar Elves, and Elves of Deep Shadows. They are creating mana for us, specifically green and or black mana, because we need green and black mana for this version of the deck. Next we have Elvish Archdruid and Elvish Clancaller, which are our elf lords for this deck, / they get more elves and or produce a lot of mana. An elf lord of mana if you are talking about Elvish Archdruid. Next we have 2 utility elves for the budget deck. We have Dwynen's Elite, which when enters the battlefield, if you have an elf, you get another elf, which is, I mean, if you get the idea, that's all about elves in this deck if you haven't figured that out yet. Elvish Visionary, when it enters the battlefield, I should say, you actually get to draw a card, which is fantastic. Then we have a little bit of card draw. We have Sylvan Messenger and Lead the Stampede. Both of these are allowing us to get cards because the elf deck plays a little bit like a combo deck that is just going for aggro, so getting extra card draw is always going to be really handy. And then we have 2 finishers. We have Ezuri, Renegade Leader, and Shaman of the Pack. Now, Shaman of the Pack is when it enters play, you deal damage to target opponent equal to the number of elves you control, so it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to finish the game right away, but it usually can help close out the game really quickly if you've already been swinging in a little bit, so really good. And then Ezuri Renegade Leader is you pay a bunch of mana and all your elves get +3/+3 and trample, so pay 5 mana to be exact, not a bunch. You just pay specifically 2 generic and then green for anyone that is complaining about my specific numbers here. So that's what it actually is. As far as lands are concerned in this deck, Llanowar Wastes and 14 Forests and the single Swamp, because again, we need a touch of black mana specifically to cast Shaman of the Pack, and there's also a bunch of stuff in the sideboard. I'm not actually going to go into depths in the sideboard, but we will talk about the sideboard actually right now, come to think of it. So the sideboard, without actually going into much detail, we have Dampening Sphere, Duress, Essence Warden, Jagged-Scar Archers, Nihil Spellbomb, Reclamation Sage, Tormod's Crypt, and Wrap in Vigor. Again, for this one here, I put together a sideboard that is going to be effective against a bunch of decks we have problems with, but the sideboards for this deck and every single deck out there is the thing that changes the most with every single deck depending on what you're running up against in the meta. So this is a good one all around, but for your local meta, you're probably gonna have to change it up. And that is the entire deck. If you want to pick this deck up in paper, or any deck on the channel for that matter, go over to Flipside Gaming, use promo code GIANTMonsterGames to get 10% off your online purchase. Or if you want to buy this deck on MTGO, there's a link below to Card Hoarder where you can quickly pick up this entire deck fast and easy. Also, both of these help out the channel directly, so I can keep making videos just like this for you guys. Let's take a look at the tier 1 now. So I'm going to be breaking down for every single one of these videos into main board, non-lands, and then the actual lands, because there is kind of a running theme with all of these budget decks where majority of the cards that are different tend to be the mana base. A lot of the mana base that you need to buy if you want to play competitive Magic tends to be expensive lands, so I'm going to be separating them into 2 different categories. So the main deck, non-land cards, we have 29 of 41 cards are identical from the budget version of the deck to the non-budget version of the deck. So you already own 71% of the cards that actually make this deck specifically what it is and what it is supposed to be doing. The things that are different specifically is it is running Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel. So this is a really good combo, and you have to play both of these cards together if you're going to play them. Playing one or the other usually is, I mean, you could play Heritage Druid a little bit, but usually you want to play them both together. Heritage Druid is you tap 3 elves you control, and you better produce 3 mana. So that's really good because elves you play this turn that have Summoning Sickness that usually might produce mana anyways, usually won't produce mana for you because they have Summoning Sickness, where Heritage Druid, you can now tap elves that have Summoning Sickness, which is fantastic. Nettle Sentinel is whenever you cast a green spell, you get to untap it. It doesn't untap any other way, and seeing as how we are almost an entirely green deck, / green and black, not just specifically black, this thing is going to untap all the time. So you can actually get a lot of value by, if you have 3 Nettle Sentinels in play and a Heritage Druid, you can actually play a green spell, untap all your Nettle Sentinels, tap them all for mana again, and then play a green spell and untap all 3 of them, and you can just create a ton of mana. As you can see, this will create a lot of mana for you very, very, very quickly, which is why they're played in combination. The other big change is they have a better draw engine. They're using draw engine, creature advantage engine is what it is. We're running Collected Company, which is substantially better. So Collected Company, it's an instant speed. You play it, you reveal the top, don't reveal. You look at the top 6 cards of your library, and then you may reveal and play 2 cards with converted mana cost 3 or less. Collected Company is the other major upgrade to the non-land part of this deck. As far as lands are concerned, it is running Blooming Marsh, Glint Leaf Palace, and Cavern of Souls. All of these are really good at producing black mana and green mana and making it so your creatures can't be countered. Wink wink, nudge nudge, Cavern of Souls. I wish I owned more of them because they're really good, but they're also really expensive. And then we have 3 utility lands, which we are not running as well in the budget version of the deck. That is going to be Horizon Canopy, Plumblehaven? I'm not really sure how to pronounce that word. And Westvale Abbey. Horizon Canopy is a good card that can draw you cards when you can sacrifice it and draw cards down the road, which is usually why people play it, because it produces mana early game and then produces card late game, which is usually really good. And then Pendlehaven is allowing you to give a 1/1 creature, which is going to be most of our elves, +1/+2. So it kind of just beefs them up a little bit, which is kind of nice. And then Westvale Abbey flips into a giant monstrosity of a creature, which you can theoretically use to win the game in an alternate condition kind of way. So there is a bunch of different ways we can win with this specific deck. Now, let's talk about how you're going to be upgrading it and what specifically you're going to be taking out or putting in if you want to upgrade this deck, and in what order, because that's actually the thing I get asked the most on this channel is, what card should I take out for this card? So the first 2 cards, Heritage Druid and Nettle Sentinel, we are going to be taking out Elves of the Deep Shadow, Elvish Mystic, 4 Elvish Visionaries, and 2 Lead the Stampedes for this. Obviously, Lead the Stampede is our card advantage, which is not really the same, so you should probably replace that last. If you're only going to say get 4 Heritage Druids and 2 Nettle Sentinels, leave the 2 Lead the Stampedes in, take everything else out. That is going to be your plan of attack for those 2 cards. Collected Company, this is pretty straightforward. Remove the Sylvan Messenger. Pretty straightforward on that one. As far as lands are concerned, Blooming Marsh, Cavern of Souls, the Gilt Leaf Palace, you're going to be replacing them with Llanowar Wastes and the Swamp we have in there. And then if you're going to be replacing the other lands, the special lands, the Horizon Canopy, the Pumblehaven, Westvale Abbey, you're just going to take out Forests. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. That is the upgrade strategy. If you're looking to put in any of these cards, those are the cards you should take out and put in the other better cards. And that is the entire deck. Now let's go watch some gameplay. I would like to throw a huge shout out to all of the Patreon supporters that have been still supporting this channel even though I've had to take a 3-month hiatus. You guys are awesome, thank you for supporting, and if you want to see more of the videos about this exact series, there are some videos you can click right here to do that right now.